Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Ortiz Jr versus Lawson fight. If you are new around here though and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So, going into this fight, Ortiz Jr is 19-0 with 19 KOs, and Lawson is 30-3 with 22 KOs. This fight is a 12-round fight in the super welterweight division. Ortiz Jr.'s last fight was a win via TKO in round 9 versus McKinson, that being back in August of 2022, and Lawson's last fight was a win via unanimous decision versus VIO boss. Ortiz Jr. is 25 and Lawson is 34. Ortiz Jr. has been out with illness for the whole time that he's been out as of recent. This is in Ortiz Jr.'s home country of America. Lawson's losses have come versus Hatley in 2021, Ruiz in 2019, and Bizier in 2015, and he's been stopped in every single one. Just to speak about what I've just been saying there, of course this is the return of Ortiz Jr. It's maybe not the fight which people were wanting for him to be having here, but like I say, it's the return, and it's nice to see him fighting again because he is one of the most entertaining fighters in the world, and when he is fighting, like I say, he just brings loads of entertainment and he's a great viewing, and I'm excited for this fight, even though like I say, it's not the fight which everybody's really wanting. Obviously this is him moving up in weight division now into super welterweight division. He obviously hasn't fought since August of 2022, but since that performance and every performance before then has been a stoppage victory, and he's been very dominant as of recent, and that last fight versus McKinson was a very good stoppage for him. Lawson, obviously he's coming off a unanimous decision win. It wasn't the greatest win for him, to be completely honest. It wasn't really an amazingly good performance. Obviously Ortiz Jr. is the much younger guy, so I suppose even with him having this time out, you've got to think that it's not possibly might not affect him quite as much so as if he was that more of an older fighter. Lawson, obviously being that of an older fighter, I don't know if he's going to have that same kind of athleticism, that youthfulness as possibly Ortiz might have. Obviously Ortiz Jr. has been out with illness. How's that going to affect him? We don't know. I mean, he has to actually still get to this fight first, which hopefully will now, because it is fight week, and I think I did a prediction for Ortiz Jr. versus Stanionis, and obviously that got postponed twice, and so there's still time for him to pull out, I suppose. But it's been bad what's been happening with illness. I hope everything is alright, and I hope all his health is okay, and it seems like it's become from overworking and from training too hard and being too intense, which you've got to respect him for, because obviously you can see that he puts in the hard work, he puts in the effort, he doesn't really take time off, and it's just when you're training too hard, you're giving too much into the sport, and it's harsh reality of it. People always don't give enough, and a lot of people, that's what the problem is. But when you're giving too much and then something comes up, and then you're like, what more can you do? Because you want to be doing your best, and you want to be improving, and you want to be in the gym, but if you're doing too much, you can't be in the gym, and it's interesting to see. But of course, how's he going to come back from this? Is this going to add more spice into his game? Is this going to add possible frustrations? Is this going to, I don't know, there's questions that needs to be shown and needs to be answered with this fight. Obviously this is Ortiz Jr.'s home country. Obviously it's America, it's always going to be there with Golden Boy. Obviously Lawson's losses, he's been stopped in every single one. They've come against much lesser opponents. There's not been too many, but the last one, 2021 wasn't that long ago now, and he looked close to possibly getting even stopped in his last fight. Obviously he managed to win, but it's definitely shown that he can be stopped, and the fact he's been stopped against possible lesser punchers, lesser fighters, it doesn't look amazing going into a fight with Ortiz Jr., who has been such a dominant, ferocious finisher. Also on this card though is Davies versus Barroso for the WBA interim super lightweight title. I don't know if this is the official interim title, but it seems like it's about it, and it should be, in which I think Davies will win via KO in round 7. I'm surprised Barroso is still fighting at this level, but you got to give him credit. Obviously he's still being able to operate at this level, but I think Davies is going to be just too much. He's going to be too spiteful for him, and he's going to be able to get him out of there. And Barroso has shown that he's got them weaknesses now, and he can be hurt, and he has been hurt quite a few times as of recent, and I feel like this is going to be the same again, to be completely honest. And fair play to Davies. I would like to hope that he does actually get this world title shot after this, but I don't know. Now the way that with the super lightweight division is going, with more and more fighters moving up and more entertaining fights being made from fighters moving up, I don't know if that fight's going to end up happening at the moment. But we'd like to hope for Davis's sake, the fact he's earned it against Romero, that fight does end up happening. Going back to the main event, Ortiz Jr. as a fighter, he obviously is at a new weight here. Is that going to play much of a factor? Not entirely sure, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure that power is going to move up with him. Obviously, he's a big puncher, very big puncher. I mean, 19 KOs in 19 fights. There's not many fighters who have that of such a destructive record. He's got very good hand speed. He's very accurate. Changes levels well. He's got great combinations. He's very spiteful. He punches through any kind of guard, any kind of defense that you might have. He knows how to close out fights better than most fighters. He likes the pressure. I think he likes the actual fan pressure, but then also the pressure of fighters coming and wanting a fight and wanting to brawl. And not necessarily it's the best thing, but it means that he can operate when he is under pressure and he doesn't kind of panic or do too much. He knows how to operate in them positions. He trusts in his skill. He has a lot of faith in his skill and his ability and his also power as well. And so he doesn't, like I say, look like he's kind of worrying at any point. He's a pressure fighter himself. He wants to be in close, but he can also fight very well at mid-range. So it's nice to see that he can fight at kind of both ranges. He's faced adversity himself. I mean, he's been kind of dropped. I mean, against Velasquez, I believe it was, he kind of got dropped. Well, he didn't get called a drop, but it looked like it was. And he's managed to come back from then and look better from that. So, he's definitely faced adversity. Shows that he can get through it. And for young fighters, I feel like that's a very important thing for fighters to go through, and not necessarily fighters always get that. And then, when they do get to the bigger fights and they do actually end up facing adversity, then they just don't know how to react to it. He changes momentum. I mean, with his power himself, he can do that with ease. And he has a high output, and that's how it can outthrow a lot of fighters. Negatives about him, obviously, is his health. I mean, we got to wait and see how that is playing, and if there's any kind of factor of if it's going to affect him, and if he's possibly trained a bit less, or if he's just, I don't know, becoming a bit more cautious, or if he's possibly going to tire out a little bit going into this fight. We have to wait and see. He may be overlooking his opponent here. Obviously, he's supposed to fight for Stanionis twice, and that was a bigger fight. And so this fight here, he may be overlooking his opponent. He not physically strong, and he's not physically big, but I think from the looks of things, Lawson is kind of more of an opposing physical fighter, but Ortiz Jr. is a very physical fighter in general, and even though he's not physically strong, his power does talk in for that kind of aspect. He wants a war, and he does get dragged into opponents' fights quite a lot, which isn't amazing. It means he's definitely there to get hit, and sometimes he seems like he takes a hit to kind of psych himself up a bit, and he does fight with aggression and a lot of it, and when he does take a shot, it does seem like that fuels him, but obviously it means it's taking shots that he doesn't necessarily should have to be taking. He's been hurt, like I mentioned. He's maybe coming in a bit overconfident and just thinking he can walk through fighters. He's possibly a bit too attacking at times, kind of neglects his defense at times, even though it's not a bad defense. He can fight a bit too emotionally. Sometimes he looks like he always wants to respond to a shot, whenever he gets hit, he looks like he's always trying to respond, and if he can't, then that can kind of cause him to get a little bit frustrated, and he can become a bit frustrated, and at that point he can then kind of headhunt a bit and try and force the fight a bit, which is never really something you want to be doing. His chin can be in the air a little bit at times. He can walk onto shots, forget his jab. If he gets frustrated, he can forget his jab, not even really set up his shots as nicely as he can do, and that's when it can sometimes become a little bit messier for him. Talk about Lawson as a fighter. He's got good power. I mean, he's got 22 stoppages himself, so his power is definitely something which can't be underestimated. He can fight on the inside as well, can also fight in the mid-range quite well as well. Not amazing, but on the inside he can operate. He's a quick counterer, and he's, like I say, got relatively good counters. He's used to being an underdog, and I would say that, he's probably going to operate in an underdog mentality relatively well. He has heart. He has good shot variation. He's aggressive himself. He knows when he has you hurt as well. Similar kind of aspects to that of Ortiz Jr. He's got high output, and he changes levels quite well as well and operates well on that aspect. Negatives about him: he's got a bit of an inconsistent jab. He doesn't throw it out probably as much as I'd like to, but neither does Ortiz Jr, I suppose. He can wait on the ropes a bit too long and just try and sit there and try and respond with counters, which he can sometimes do well, but then sometimes he could just do with moving off the ropes a bit. And if he's sitting and waiting on the ropes against Ortiz Jr, I feel like that can't be the best of things. He welcomes pressure, which isn't great against Ortiz Jr, can get outboxed. He can drop his hands when he's on the back foot, and when he is backing up, he can struggle. Even though he's got good counters, when he is backing up, he seems like he can be a bit out of his depth and can also become tired later on, and that's definitely what happened against Villalobos. He, in my opinion, is the less skillful, got the less kind of things in his arsenal than that of Ortiz Jr. He also gets hit often. His lateral movement, his head movement ain't great. He stands straight on a bit at times when he is attacking. It is fight on the inside. He has quite wild shots, quite unorthodox, I suppose, unorthodox angles that he sometimes finds, which ain't a bad thing, but when they're a bit wide, they can be seen from earlier, and I don't know, it's also, I don't know, I don't like the wide shots too much, and he does throw a lot of them, and he can look a bit bouncy on his feet at times, a bit bouncy footwork, and it's not especially what you want to be doing. It means his balance ain't especially great. But Ortiz Jr is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Ortiz Jr will win via KO in round 4. I think it's going to be a very destructive fight for him. I think he's going to let out a lot of frustrations that he's built up within the past year and a bit now, and I think this fight is going to put him back on the right track, hopefully get him back going again. Hopefully his illnesses can kind of be stopped, and it's going to be another entertaining performance. And like I say, he's such an entertaining fighter. The division is better with him fighting, and I think there'll be more big fights. Who could go on to fight next? Possibly Stanionis. I mean, we don't know. Possibly that fight is still there to be made. Zhu, I think, could be a big fight. Zhu's obviously wanting the biggest fights, and it seems like he's not really getting a world title shot against Charlo. So Ortiz Jr could make for a very big fight. Or Lubin. Obviously Lubin's with PBC. I think so Zhu as well, so that could become difficult. But hopefully on paper, I mean, Lubin could also be a big fight as well. Obviously he's coming off a pretty decent last year, and he's returning back to his best, and that's another big fight there. I just don't know if that's going to end up happening. People also talking about Ennis as a big fight. I don't know if he's going to go straight from this fight to fight Ennis. I think that is a big jump, and especially with his timeout, I don't know. But I suppose you never know. We'll have to wait and see. I think Ortiz Jr has also been calling out Crawford, but I don't think that fight's going to end up happening. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like if you did, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.